Hi everybody, Jared Johnson here, and it is time for the start of the week webinar. I'm very glad you are deciding to join us and watch a little bit of this. I have got a special webinar planned for Monday, later in the day on Monday, so I am releasing the typical Monday afternoon webinar Sunday night. And give everyone a little bit of a chance to kind of get a jump on the market and hopefully attend my other webinar, which you will see another email about in your inbox. And you can check me on Twitter as well for the details on that, which will be a little bit earlier on Monday. Okay, so let's get down to some trading business here. I hope everybody had a great weekend, and I hope you're all rested up and ready for another great week of trading. It was wild and crazy last week. Good heavens, it was wild and crazy. We'll talk just about that in a moment. Remember, this is Day Traders FX. You can get a free trial to our live trading group by going to daytradersfx.com and just click on Get Started. And that'll get you all set up with a free trial for a wonderful week of trading. We'd love to have you join the trading family. Come on aboard. Okay, so we've had a lot of news last week that got markets cranking, and we have a lot of news coming this week that's probably going to get markets continuing to crank. We've got some BOJ speech activity tomorrow, which is always tentative as usual. Then we've got Carney speaking from the Bank of England. Then we've got a little bit of Aussie news and some Euro bank holiday activity. Going into Tuesday, we've got a little bit of just kind of regular news, nothing too terribly crazy. Some CPI news, a little bit out of Bank of Canada. Nothing too market moving, just enough to kind of keep the volume flowing through the market, which we always like. Going into Wednesday, though, we've got some pretty good news. We've got New Zealand interest rate announcements. We'll have a live session for this in the trade group, so that'll be exciting. And the one exciting thing about this, or the main exciting thing about this, is New Zealand is expected to cut interest rates from 2.75% to 2.5%. If they don't cut rates, then the New Zealand dollar is going to skyrocket. If they do, we'll see what kind of reaction we get out of that. And if they cut rates more than expected, then the New Zealand dollar will just fall through the floor. So whenever there's a rate hike or a rate reduction expected, there's always some really exciting things that can happen from that. So this is going to be a live session for sure on Wednesday. So be prepared for that. This will be for members of the trading group. Then following that up, later on in the day, we have Australian employment numbers, and that is also going to be a live session for the trading group. And that is exciting. There's lots of movement that comes out of the Australian employment numbers, so be ready for that. That will be probably a very wild mover. Okay, then coming into Thursday, we also have some Swiss franc news. We're all afraid of the Swiss franc press conference and all of that, so we'll probably stay out of that. We'll see what happens. There's expectations that they're going to be lowering their deposit rate and moving further into negative territory and so on, and so we'll just kind of see how that goes. Then going into Thursday, early morning, later in the early morning, we have interest rate news for the UK. We're also going to have a live session for that because that's also can be a very, very big mover. So we're going to be excited about that news. And then Friday, we've got some US, a little bit of Euro news. We'll kind of see how that goes. So we've got some exciting things going on. Okay, here's what we saw last week. The European Central Bank, everybody was kind of expecting a major worst-case scenario all the way across the board. In fact, Goldman Sachs famously said by the end of December, they expected the euro to be at parity with the U.S. dollar. Now, if this move would have gone the other way, they would have been pretty darn close to right, because the euro dollar with the euro news ran up 400 and almost 50 pips. And it started off right around 105.40. So if that would have ran down 400 pips, they would have pretty much nailed that one right on the head. However, Goldman Sachs is very typically totally wrong when it comes to euro dollar activity. I've been watching their analysis and their calls and so on for years, and I can't believe how absolutely wrong they usually are. And they just nailed this one completely being wrong once again. So the euro dollar has run up. We've been talking about this a bit in the trade group, how we're we're looking for a nice breakout, a nice move higher. That was a very aggressive move higher. It's broken out of this nice falling wedge and really had a nice turnaround there. So now what we have on euro dollar is a couple of things. I'm not totally convinced that we're going to start seeing a euro dollar uptrend now, although it's very possible. And so here's a couple of scenarios that I'm looking for here. Again, with a big move like this, 400 plus pips up, it's created a fantastic bull flag right here. It's ran up and it's just consolidating. Now, a couple of things that I'm looking to have happen here is our weekly pivots down here about 10800, and we've kind of on this shorter term range crossed the 23% fib a couple of times. So I'm looking for basically I'm looking for the weekly pivot to get hit sometime in the next several hours. I think that's a really likely case and a likely scenario. I'm definitely not going to be hasty about shorting the euro dollar. In fact, I'm watching for it to hit that weekly pivot and that 38% fib. I think there could be a nice little short-term sell opportunity there because those levels are kind of 50 and 60 pips away. So those are good opportunities for some quick short-term trades. That I do like. But long-term getting short euro dollar, I'm not ready to do that one just yet. But there's a short-term short here or sell opportunity to just kind of cover the Fibonacci level and the 200 moving, or excuse me, the weekly pivot. So I think we could very likely see a move down. We're currently about 108.60. I could see us hitting 10800 sometime in the next 12 to 24 hours. And from there, I'm going to be looking for opportunities probably to buy the euro dollar once again and see if this bull flag is going to play out. If it plows through that level, I'm definitely not setting a pending order here. I'm going to see if it can run down to that weekly pivot, that 10800 area, and then kind of consolidate, bounce, hold, and start making its way back up. And I'll be looking for opportunities to buy down there. But again, no pending order. I'm going to be just watching it and seeing how it goes. And I'm going to be doing my best to get into a couple of short-term sells on the way down here as well. But I think we could get that move down, and then I think we can get a nice little continuation back up. We came just shy of hitting 110, and I think 110 is probably going to get hit. We're currently 140 pips away from that, so that's a pretty real opportunity running up into that area, taking out some levels there, and then continuing back down from there. Again, I don't see a long-term uptrend starting on euro dollar, although it could happen. But I do see some decent buying pressure. This thing ran up and has retraced very little. It has retraced just a bit, but it hasn't shown any sharp moves down. And so I think this is going to be a good opportunity to buy some dips and trade this euro dollar just a little bit higher before we start shorting it. Okay, that's what I'm looking for there. Pound dollar, I'm basically looking to do the same thing on the pound dollar. We've got some pretty big news coming up for pound pairs with interest rate news and so on. So it might be a little bit choppier than normal this week. But we do have, you can see some pretty nice little levels here. It's consolidating pretty well. It took a little dip down here, and then we have this huge bullish engulfing candle. And if we look at this 1 hour chart, you can see a pretty strong move up and then some nice consolidation. So I'm basically looking for the same thing to happen here. I want to see if this pound dollar can move down about 30 to 40 pips from where it currently is. Take out this weekly pivot at around 150.50, and then I'm going to look for opportunities to buy down around that weekly pivot. Again, there's going to be some short-term opportunities to sell this thing down into that weekly pivot. So I think that's a pretty real opportunity as well, and I'm going to be watching that one very closely. But I kind of want to buy dips on euro dollar and pound dollar at the moment. Of course, as we mentioned, we're all pretty afraid of the dollars, of the Swiss franc, in general. So we're going to be pretty careful about this one. But I think we've got some good opportunities for the Swiss franc to give us some pullback. Again, looking for a move towards that weekly pivot point. And I'm not just kind of generically looking for everything to hit the weekly pivot point. I'm looking more for opportunities for kind of my short-term Fibonacci play to happen, which is moving from the 23 to the 38. And we've clearly crossed that several times without reaching that 38. So I think that 38 is going to get reached, and along the way we're going to hit some of that weekly pivot point. So I'm looking for this dollar Swiss franc to move up another 50, 60 pips, somewhere in that general vicinity. And then I'm going to be looking to short this one as well from a slightly higher price. So I think that's going to be a nice little opportunity. Lots of bull and bear flags. We're going to see how these play out. These can be pretty volatile, especially after some big news movements like that, and so we want to be pretty careful with that. Okay, here's the dollar CAD. Hugely choppy, hugely crazy. But when we look at it on a daily chart, it makes a little bit more sense. I think the dollar CAD is very interesting. Oil, if I'm not mistaken, as of this current moment, has broken the $40 mark, which is pretty significant. Oil's currently at about $39.57. That's a pretty big move down. We definitely have seen some dollar strength, some U.S. dollar strength, and the Canadian dollar has just had kind of bad news after bad news. They had pretty bad job numbers on Friday. They were looking to kind of have lost a couple of jobs, and it looks like a lot more than expected had disappeared into thin air, so to speak. So the Canadian dollar is a good opportunity here. It's getting a little bit overbought on my the kind of setup that I look for on my daily and my 4-hour chart, but it's not extremely overbought yet. It's kind of entering that territory, and right now we have this big double top here that's at about 134.50-ish area. From there, we kind of have clear skies up into about 140. Which takes us all the way back to the high here of 2004, 140. So it looks like there's nothing too much stopping the dollar CAD at this point. So we could see a break and a 400 to 500 pip movement above this double top. So that's something I'm very actively keeping an eye on at the moment, and I think we're going to get some nice opportunities there. So loving that one. Which by default makes the EURCAD a pretty interesting one. If we see some nice euro strength continue on, and we see some nice Canadian weakness continue on, so if the euro dollar breaks this bull flag and the dollar CAD breaks this double top, then you know we're going to be heavily long EURCAD. EURCAD is a wild pair, and it can move like crazy. You can see with the news here, the EURCAD moved up 600 plus pips in the matter of just a couple of hours. About 4 or 5 hours, it moved up 600 pips. So we're seeing some real increased volatility in some of this short-term movement here. The EURCAD, you can see, has just kind of taken these kind of long runs up and down and so on. We don't have anything super significant really close by on this EURCAD. It's kind of in the middle of a big trendless market over the last several years. There's these kind of short-term downtrends and these uptrends that'll last for sometimes several months or even a year. But overall, there's not much major trend here. So there's going to be some nice opportunities to trade this EURCAD if we see kind of that continued movement. And of course, here we have a nice little bull flag as well with a lot of these pairs. We have some choppy kind of wicks in there and so on, but I'm going to be keeping an eye on this EURCAD, and I think we might get some pretty decent opportunities. Again, I'm looking for the same kind of thing on the EURCAD as I'm looking for on everything, which is seeing if we can get that move down into the weekly pivot / 38% fib levels, which pretty much they all have a very similar setup. The weekly pivot and the 38% fib are all, on most of the pairs that I've talked about, are just a couple of pips apart. This one happens to be basically overlapping. So I want to see these pairs move down into those levels and buy some dips and sell some rallies on those. A lot of chop on New Zealand dollar and Australian dollar. Not planning on doing too much on those two pairs until we get that news. We have Australian employment numbers coming later this week. We have New Zealand interest rate numbers coming later this week. I'm going to definitely be looking for activity there. Gold is making a nice little run. Gold was really playing at this lower level here. It's been really bouncing around at the 1050 zone. And as soon as it dipped below 1050, just a little bit, got down to about 1046, this thing just rocketed straight up. So I was looking for the $1,000 mark to get broken, and I really wanted to get long gold down below $1,000. I think there's still going to be some good opportunities. I think this is a little bit of a recovery. We might see a slight move higher here. You can see just a nice little typical bull flag once again, a couple hundred pips on a move up, some nice consolidation. I'm looking for that continuation up through that bull flag for just a few more pips, but I think this might be a bit of a recovery on gold, just short term, and this could end up being an excellent opportunity to sell the rallies. And so I'm looking for that to happen on gold. I think there's going to be some good opportunities this week. We're going to talk about this in the trade group on Euro Aussie, Pound Aussie, and so on. But there's several others I want to talk about and discuss with everyone. And we'll do that in the trade group this week. I hope you make some money on the euro dollar and the pound dollar and the dollar Swiss franc and the dollar CAD and some of these other pairs. There's some great opportunities. Good luck, everybody. Have a wonderful trading week, and I will see you on Twitter, in the chat, and all over the place. Thanks, everyone. Take care, and have a wonderful week.